Described as a humanoid creature with red eyes and giant wings, the Mothman first showed up to haunt locals in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Since then, Mothman has been tied to UFOs, Men in Black, and a terrible tragedy that occurred in 1967. But what was Mothman really? And what happened to the citizens of Point Pleasant after this winged monster first showed up? Here's the untold truth of Mothman. The sightings begin. According to the West Virginia Department of Commerce, Mothman was first seen on November 12, 1966 by 5 grave diggers near the town of Clendenin, West Virginia. The men described the otherworldly entity as a brown human being that flew over their heads. While that's generally regarded as the first official Mothman encounter, some folklorists claim that sightings go back for decades. According to stories, the being was seen in the early 1900s, then allegedly appeared throughout West Virginia during World War I and World War II. Each time, the description was the same: a large, winged creature with red eyes. The TNT plant. 3 days after showing up at the Clendenin Cemetery, Mothman made its second official appearance at an abandoned munitions factory in the woods outside Point Pleasant, known as the TNT plant. 2 married couples were driving around the plant late at night on November 15th when the beams from their car headlights hit a mysterious red-eyed creature beside the road. According to the story they told the police, the monster flew after their car and chased them back to the outskirts of Point Pleasant. Sightings and dreams. After the November 15 incident, more people stepped forward claiming they'd also encountered the creature. Cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman believes around 100 people bumped into the Mothman over the course of 13 months, while another researcher, Brian Dunning, states that there were only 6 or so reported sightings, all of which occurred in November 1966. On November 16, Raymond and Kathy Wamsley, along with their friend Marcella Bennett, saw the monster next to their parked car.
And it was standing with its shoulders and then its neck down in like this.
Without a doubt, there was something strange going on in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. While some of the facts are debatable, the stories kept getting creepier. According to the podcast Lore, people in Point Pleasant began experiencing creepy dreams in the months after Mothman's 1966 appearance. Some supposedly had visions of Christmas presents floating down the nearby Ohio River and nightmares of people drowning. The Silver Bridge collapse. The appearances of Mothman in November 1966 were creepy, but they paled in comparison to what happened on December 15, 1967. On that fateful December day, the Silver Bridge collapsed into the Ohio River. In total, 46 lives were lost, and the tragedy sparked all sorts of bizarre theories about what happened. However, the most popular involves the Mothman. Cryptozoologists and paranormal researchers believe the winged beast was either responsible for the collapse or that it was trying to warn of the impending disaster, and those who believe in the Mothman connection often point to the terrifying dreams of people drowning and Christmas presents in the river as proof of the creature's involvement. After all, the Silver Bridge fell just a few weeks before December 25th, right as people were doing their Christmas shopping. Mythmakers. After the Silver Bridge disaster, reporter John Keel investigated the Mothman sightings and wrote about incidents that it sounded like they were ripped straight from the X-Files. Among other incidents, he wrote, television sets were burning out at an alarming rate. Telephones were going crazy, ringing at all hours of the day and night with no one on the other end. He covered the story in his book, The Mothman Prophecies, which was turned into the 2002 movie of the same name. But as for the creepy nightmares, government agents, and the connection to the Silver Bridge, well, a lot of that can be traced back to one man, UFO author Gray Barker. Unfortunately for Mothman fans, Gray Barker has something of a spotty track record when it comes to the truth. According to one of his friends, Barker pretty much took all of the ufology as a joke. His friend John Sherwood also claimed that Barker hoaxed author John Keel. Remember how Keel claimed that he'd received multiple calls from mysterious entities? Well, it's likely Barker made those calls himself. And as for Keel himself, skeptic Robert Schaefer once described him as a trickster who wrote entertaining stories that paid the bills. In other words, the stories of disturbing dreams, UFOs, and men in black surrounding Mothman lore might be a bit, well, exaggerated. The Mothman Legacy. Whether or not you believe in the Mothman, it's definitely had an impact on Point Pleasant. In the early 2000s, the town erected a 12-foot tall statue of the monster, complete with insect face and red eyes, in the appropriately named Mothman Park. In addition to the statue, Point Pleasant hosts a yearly Mothman festival and maintains a Mothman museum where you can see all sorts of paraphernalia related to both the actual case and the Richard Gere movie. Mothman returns. On November 20th, 2016, an anonymous man who'd recently moved to Point Pleasant took photos of a shadowy, man-sized creature flying through the West Virginia sky. So, did the Mothman migrate back to his old hometown? Is something bad in store for the residents of Point Pleasant, or is it all a good old-fashioned hoax? Either way, the folks of Point Pleasant should probably keep on watching the skies, just in case. Thanks for watching. Click the grunge icon to